Today, FDA approvals in hepatocellular carcinoma and cervical cancer, a breakthrough therapy designation in lung cancer, mixed findings in small cell lung cancer, a European approval in chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and insight into how the novel coronavirus 2019 is impacting the schedule of oncology conferences. Welcome to Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus. The FDA has granted an accelerated approval to the combination of nivolumab and ipilimumab for the treatment of patients with hepatocellular carcinoma who have received prior therapy with sorafenib. The approval is based on cohort findings from the phase 1/2 CheckMate 040 study, in which the combination of nivolumab and ipilimumab elicited an objective response rate of 33% in this patient population at a median follow-up of 28 months. The ORR included an 8% complete response rate and a 24% partial response rate. Moreover, the duration of response ranged from 4.6 to 30.5 plus months, with 88% of responses lasting at least 6 months, 56% lasting at least 12 months, and 31% of responses lasting at least 24 months. By blinded independent central review, the ORR using modified RECIST version 1.1 criteria was 35%, with a 12% CR rate and a 22% PR rate. The approved intravenous doses for the combination are 1 mg per kilogram of nivolumab and 3 mg per kilogram of ipilimumab. In cervical cancer, the FDA has approved the Syntec Plus cytology test as the first biomarker-based triage test for women whose primary cervical cancer screening results are positive for the human papillomavirus using the Cobas 4800 HPV test. The test allows clinicians to identify HPV-positive women who are at increased risk of developing cervical precancers, identifying those patients who need to immediately receive additional diagnostic work. The Syntec Plus cytology simultaneously detects P16 and Ki67. When a cell expresses both of these biomarkers, there is a high likelihood that the patient has transforming HPV infections that can potentially progress to either precancer or cancer. In making its decision, the FDA reviewed data from the registrational IMPACT trial, which evaluated the Syntec Plus cytology test as a triage tool into several screening scenarios among a population of more than 35,000 women. The results from the trial have not yet been published. Roche, the developer of Syntec Plus cytology, anticipates that the test will be commercially available in the United States on a widespread basis later this year. The FDA has granted a breakthrough therapy designation to JNJ6372 for the treatment of patients with EGFR-positive metastatic non-small cell lung cancer who harbor exon 20 insertion mutations and whose disease has progressed on or after platinum-based chemotherapy. JNJ6372 is defined as an EGFR-MET bispecific antibody that targets activated and resistant EGFR and MET mutations and amplifications. The designation is supported by findings from a phase 1 trial, which showed that JNJ6372 elicited preliminary responses in patients with NSCLC, including those who have relapsed EGFR mutant disease and those with exon 20 insertions. The therapy was also found to have a manageable safety profile. The specific patient population typically does not respond to EGFR TKIs and are said to have a worse prognosis compared with those whose tumors harbor more common EGFR mutations, such as exon 19 deletions and L858R substitutions. Currently, this patient population is treated with conventional cytotoxic chemotherapy. In small cell lung cancer, the combination of durvalumab with standard frontline chemotherapies led to a sustained overall survival benefit in patients with extensive stage disease, according to results from the final analysis of the phase 3 Caspian trial. However, the study missed its co-primary endpoint as the combination of durvalumab with chemotherapy and tremelimumab did not induce a statistically significant improvement in OS versus standard chemotherapy alone. No new safety signals were reported in this final analysis, and the data will be presented at an upcoming medical meeting. Based on the primary Caspian analysis, which showed that durvalumab plus standard of care chemotherapies induced a statistically significant improvement in OS versus chemotherapy alone, the FDA previously granted a priority review designation to a supplemental biologics license application for frontline durvalumab as a treatment for patients with ES-SCLC. The European Commission has approved a fixed-dose combination of venetoclax and obinutuzumab for the treatment of patients with previously untreated chronic lymphocytic leukemia. The approval is based on results from the phase 3 CLL-14 trial, in which the combination led to a 65% reduction in the risk of disease progression or death compared with obinutuzumab plus chlorambucil in this patient population. The adverse events observed with the venetoclax regimen were consistent with the known safety profiles of each agent alone. After a median follow-up of 28.1 months, the 2-year progression-free survival rate was 88.2% with venetoclax and obinutuzumab versus 64.1% with chlorambucil and obinutuzumab. The investigator assessed median PFS was not yet reached in either arm. However, the independent review committee assessment of PFS was consistent. Similarly, the PFS benefit was observed across subgroups, including those with T53 deletion, mutation, or both, and in patients with unmutated IgHV. As the novel coronavirus 2019 continues a rapid global spread, many oncology-based organizations have either canceled or postponed highly anticipated medical conferences that had been scheduled for the coming months in a valiant effort to protect physicians and patients from infection. Most recently, the list of conferences that have been postponed include the European Society for Blood and Marrow Transplantation Annual Meeting, the National Comprehensive Cancer Network Annual Conference, the European Congress of Radiology Annual Meeting, the First Translational Research Conference, Chronic Lymphocytic Leukemia, the European Society of Gynecological 2020 State of the Art Conference, and the AACR Annual Meeting. The annual European Neuroendocrine Tumor Society Conference and the American Society of Preventative Oncology Conference will both be converted into virtual meetings. Meetings that have been canceled include the ESMO Targeted Anti-Cancer Therapies Congress, SGO's Annual Meeting on Women's Cancer, the American Urological Association Annual Meeting, and the 5th St. Gallen International Gastrointestinal Cancer Conference. This week, we sat down with Dr. John Marshall of Georgetown University to discuss the revolution of personalized medicine in colorectal cancer.
We have just started a new decade, and if you reflect back on the last decade, we began that just entering into this concept of precision medicine in GI cancers and colorectal cancer. We did not know about RAS or MSI or all of those basic targets that we now incorporate. And if you flash forward to today, what we are seeing more and more of is broad molecular profiling. We've gone away from the sort of oligo test where you do RAS and BRAF and HER2 to now testing much more broadly. And so that requires new technology such as next-gen sequencing. So it's no longer really being run in our labs, in our basements. We are more and more partnering with different companies, different laboratories to perform this testing. And with that has come what I will say is an increased knowledge gap. So we as oncologists are busy. We're not keeping track of all of this new technology. And so it's incredibly important for us to pause a second and look at the new technology going from single gene mutations now to panels of next-gen sequencing.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus.